Hello ladies and gentlemen, Willie here. Is min-maxing a bad thing for classic WoW? Is min-maxing a bad thing for games in general, where it can apply? I see it all the time on my own videos, as well as for others and online forums, that many people have a poor view of the subject, remarking it was better when not everything was about min-maxing, or that grinding and getting to the endpoint as fast and efficiently as possible is all people care about, instead of just playing the game for the content and reaching the end goals in time as a result of just enjoying the game rather than playing it solely for that purpose. I've even seen mentions on my channel that some of the things I put out have catered to this kind of attitude, which I was actually really surprised about it when you compare it with what the guys at the top level are actually putting in terms of time, effort and preparation. In fact, I purposely keep my content more easy to consume because I'm not really that kind of player myself. I have to say that MMOs are truly a game genre that fosters an attitude of wanting to be the best at something, and Classic really caters to that. The most gold, best gear, fastest leveling, highest PvP ranks, biggest multi-box and so on. There are so many areas where you can excel and improve upon again and again. And of course, when it comes to competition, what people want is the easy route, the path of least resistance. People naturally look up to those with experience for guidance on how to get where they want to be, but they don't always appreciate the process that has gone on to get where they're at now. Everyone wants their achievements to matter, even if they're small ones, maybe even just on a personal level, but often a lack of time invested or just the skill boundary can make it far more of a challenge than anticipated. When you see someone is rank 14 or with tens of thousands of gold in their inventory, you think, I'd love to have that for myself as well, but what you don't see is the literal hundreds or even thousands of hours that have gone into making that a reality. On top of this, Classic is in a special place with literally over a decade of progress. People have had time and time again to go through the motions of launch to Naxxramas being cleared to perfect the best way of reaching their goals. And despite all this, Classic, a 15-year-old game, is still so popular. Of course there's been a drop off since launch, but many are still out there enjoying the game. Why is this then? I believe over the years there's been a shift in gaming as a whole from simply playing games for the enjoyment of it to becoming more and more invested and experienced to the point where you're no longer just playing the game for the game itself, but because you want something specific out of it, some form of personal goal. I call this objective-based gameplay, and I think this is far more of a thing with online games that have no strict endpoint, only ones of your own making. Time for a tangent. I started playing Diablo 3 with some friends recently, I know only about a decade late or however old the game is now, and I'm having a pretty good time in it, and I can see how eventually you're going to be repeating a lot of content, grinding out again and again to get the perfect gear set, which will allow you to do what you want to do later on. I've played RuneScape for years and years, and I've always thought of it as a Western MMO with the grind philosophies of an Eastern MMO. The majority of the skills in the game are literally click and repeat for hundreds of hours. That is quite literally it. You can get many of the skills in the game to maximum level by standing at a bank, withdrawing items, completing an action and repeating, and this game has grown so much since its release. This isn't to say that certain people won't enjoy the grind, but it's about I want X so that I can do Y. People get drawn into an objective-based meta when they shouldn't sometimes, as they don't want to be left behind, and I'm going to use air quotes for that point there. This happened big time with Classic, everyone taking a week off work to relive the no-life days. The method event was called Race to World First, speeding through dungeons to complete your readily available best in slot lists. Dungeon cleave grinding was a massive culprit in this too. How many people on Horde or Alliance ranking right now do you think are actually enjoying the game? How many are going to need a serious break once they hit rank 14? I remember so many groups dungeon grinding during leveling, and this was back when people made 7-man groups due to the XP scaling being a bit off, and I remember doing a few hours of Scarlet Monastery Cathedral, as every group wanted a warlock for the Eye of Kilrog pulls. I didn't just do it for the XP though, because I wanted to see what all the fuss was about. I wanted to see why everyone was doing this, and it was great XP, but I left after a couple of hours with some good item upgrades and didn't go back to it again. Many people felt obliged to dungeon farm in order to compete. The fact that people felt there was a need to compete is kind of the issue. A lot of people took part in a race that didn't really have any winners and played in a way which shredded any sense of nostalgia that they could have gotten out of the game in favour of speeding to an end. An end that once they got there didn't have any rewards. For me, I know what is around the next corner in Classic. I played vanilla, and I've looked into classes in way more details than the vast majority of people have. I know what I want out of the game, and much of it is now objective based for me. Though I've never raided, I opted into finding a guild before Classic launched with experience because I enjoy performing well and being around others who think likewise. The idea of a messy 3-hour molten core actually sounds terrible to me. And despite this, I'm not even remotely a min-max player. I should have got my rank 10 head and shoulders by now. I should have farmed out Skull's Wand in Strat Undead. I should have more enchants prepared for phase 3. And by this point, you can always use more gold, right? I know what kind of dedication it takes for the guys at the top end of the game, and I know it's not for me. Classic's endpoint really is an endpoint. There is little in way of repeatable content that you can do all day, every day. It's PvP, level or no, or gold farm pretty much. Retail has this on top of achievements, all the collectibles, the collection logs, toys, mounts, Mythic Plus, Arena, and so on. A lot of people got caught up in a rush at launch and continue to do so and find that actually, once they get to the top of the mountain, there isn't really much there for them. No doubt gaming in general has gone more and more towards wanting to be the best, and World of Warcraft reflects that. Classic is a relic from a different time and a younger internet. A lack of media contributed to this. If back then you got stuck, the options online would have been so much more limited, if anything at all. So many people took things at face value and just played what worked for them. Can you still do that now? Yeah, of course you can, but how many people will have leveled 1 to 60 without using the internet or add-ons to help? I'm gonna wager barely anybody. A lot of people will call things out when it fits their agenda, and it's something they cannot do personally or do not want to do for whatever reason. And no, I'm not saying that add-ons or using WoW head is min-maxing in any way, but if you're saying people need to chill with dungeon grinding whilst following Questy about, it's a little bit of a double standard, don't you think? Both people are taking the easy route. I put out a video a while ago where I said I think we will get the Burning Crusade, and I bet this whole process will repeat itself, except it's literally going to be hell in Hellfire Peninsula. I can tell you that right now. Open world PvP, Terramil versus South Shore, nothing will even come close to Hellfire Peninsula on release. If it's even playable through 20 layers or however many we need, and the lag as the game can't handle large groups of players, a bit ironically. Anyways, back on track. The thing is, min-maxing itself isn't a problem. Thinking that's the only way to play the game or that you need to compete in an event that doesn't affect you in any way is. Even worse is trying to opt into an objective-based style of gameplay when you don't even know what the objective is. If you're doing something you don't particularly enjoy and you can't tell me why you're doing it or the reason that you think it's worth it, you're going to stop doing that thing pretty fast. And initially I wanted at least rank 10 as mentioned earlier for the gear. I did world PvP for about the first week before knocking it on the head as I couldn't stand it. After Alterac Valley was out, I stopped after 2 weeks of casual PvPing as pre-mades were becoming meta. And I was around rank 5 then because I just didn't enjoy running down AV as PvP. The goal of the gear wasn't worth the time investment for me. And I think upon launch it was super easy to get caught up in it all early on. As we've seen with many of the big names in the community for WoW having a pretty big come down after a month or two in game, since they got trapped into dungeon cleaving straight into spamming dungeons for their pre-bis or to clear MC every week without any real challenge. So are min-max attitudes bad for the game? Is encouraging a playstyle of efficiency and speed harmful? No, I don't think they are in my opinion. I think they're bad for certain people who get caught up in speeding to the end and rush, when the only reason they're doing it is because other people are doing it, and when they get to their goal, they burnt themselves out or just plain run out of content. And I think this kind of playstyle has become a bit too mainstream, and many people are taking it on when they shouldn't be. It's a funny thing, but I know for me there is a level of fun to efficiency and speed. When you power through Molten Core in under 40 minutes, it feels pretty good. When you hit a new best time running through Diamol East and end up getting an Arcane Crystal at the end, that feels pretty good. When I manage a new biggest AoE pull on my Paladin, feels pretty good. These are kind of things that my gearing and leveling allow me to do. I enjoyed my leveling, don't get me wrong, but it's a 15-year gap between then and now. And 15 years ago my endgame was seeing what content I could solo on my Hunter and PvPing on my Shadow Priest, and honestly, if I had the exact same enjoyment out of the game as I did 15 years ago, I'd find that kind of weird, don't you think? And on top of this, that many people who play simply have less time to play these days, so getting certain areas of the game out of the way, so to speak, may seem like an attractive option if you know what you want to see from the endgame this time around. So what do you think about min-maxing? Did you rush super hard at launch? How has your game experience been for it? Or have you just been chilling at your own pace and trucking along to 60 still? Let me know. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one. If you like what you see, give the video a like and subscribe as there's plenty more to come. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Take care.